The Galactic Concordat's Grand Assembly Hall aboard Stellar Station Unity loomed before Olivia Mitchell like a crystalline cathedral. As Earth's junior diplomatic analyst, she'd spent countless hours studying alien cultures, but nothing had prepared her for the majesty of this moment. The station's artificial atmosphere carried hints of exotic spices and ozone, while beings from across the galaxy conducted their intricate dance of diplomacy. Olivia's presence here was a fluke. Her superior had fallen ill just hours before this crucial first contact ceremony with the Valari Empire. Now she found herself frantically reviewing cultural protocols on her datapad while trying not to stare at the towering, bioluminescent beings that glided through the hall like living starlight. The Valari were legendary. Their empire spanned 3 spiral arms, their technology centuries beyond humanity's reach. They were known for their strict adherence to tradition and their complex matriarchal society. Most importantly, they held the key to faster-than-light travel technology that humanity desperately needed. Analyst Mitchell, a soft chime indicated her universal translator activating. The Valari High Matriarch approaches. Senior Ambassador Richard's voice carried an edge of anxiety that made Olivia's stomach clench. She looked up from her datapad to see High Matriarch Nyara Valen entering the chamber. The Valari leader stood nearly 9 feet tall, her crystalline skin refracting light in hypnotic patterns. Intricate biotech implants traced elegant curves along her elongated features, marking her status and accomplishments. The assembly fell silent as Nyara's entourage took their positions. Olivia noticed subtle differences in their bioluminescent patterns, likely indicating social rank and familial connections, details she'd only read about in theoretical papers. Representatives of Earth, Nyara's voice resonated through the translation field with harmonic undertones that made Olivia's skin tingle. We have observed your species with great interest. Your adaptability and resourcefulness are intriguing. Olivia's analytical mind raced. The choice of intriguing carried specific cultural weight in Valari diplomatic speech. She began mentally cataloging every nuance, every subtle shift in light patterns across the assembled alien skin. Then everything changed. According to our ancient traditions, Nyara continued, when a civilization achieves first contact status, the High Matriarch may claim a chosen one, an individual who embodies the essence of their species. The assembly erupted in murmurs. Olivia's translator struggled to keep up with the overlapping alien languages. She noticed Ambassador Richards had gone pale. I invoke the right of selection, Nyara announced, her bioluminescence flaring in complex patterns. I choose her. Olivia followed the High Matriarch's gesture, looking behind her for whatever distinguished diplomat had caught the alien leader's attention. The chamber had gone deathly quiet. Analyst Olivia Mitchell of Earth, Nyara clarified, her multifaceted eyes fixed directly on Olivia. You shall be my chosen. The datapad slipped from Olivia's fingers, clattering on the crystalline floor. Her mind raced through everything she knew about Valari culture, trying to understand what this meant. The right of selection was mentioned in only the most ancient texts, its full implications unclear. Ambassador Richards grabbed her arm. You must accept, he whispered urgently. The fate of Earth's alliance could depend on it. Olivia took a deep breath, her analytical training kicking in. She noted the subtle shifts in the Valari entourage's positions, the way other alien species were reacting. This wasn't just about her anymore, it was about humanity's place in the galaxy. She stepped forward, her voice steadier than she felt. High Matriarch, I am honored by your selection. She executed the formal bow she'd studied, praying she remembered the angle correctly. I accept. Nyara's bioluminescence pulsed with approval, but Olivia caught something else in those alien eyes, something that looked remarkably like satisfaction, as if this had been the plan all along. Within hours, Olivia's life transformed completely. She was moved to luxurious quarters in the Valari section of the station, given new clothes that shifted colors with her movements, and assigned a team of alien attendants who watched her every move with curious intensity. As she stood at the viewport that evening, watching distant stars whirl past, Olivia couldn't shake the feeling that she was missing something crucial. Why her? She was an analyst, not a diplomat or soldier. Her strength lay in noticing patterns, understanding complex systems, and finding connections others missed. A soft chime announced a visitor. Nyara entered, her massive frame somehow graceful in the confined space. "You are confused," the High Matriarch stated, her bioluminescence shifting to softer patterns. "With respect, Matriarch, I don't understand why you chose me. I'm not special." Nyara's expression shifted in a way Olivia's training couldn't interpret. "That is precisely why you were chosen, Olivia Mitchell. You see patterns others miss. You understand systems others ignore. And most importantly," her bioluminescence pulsed with emphasis, "you have no idea how extraordinary that makes you." As Olivia processed these words, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The viewport automatically polarized as a massive ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel practically on top of them. Nyara's expression hardened as she read the incoming data in her biotech displays. "It seems," the High Matriarch said grimly, "that your first test as my chosen begins now." The massive ship looming outside the station bore markings Olivia had never seen before. Its hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, creating an unsettling void against the star-filled backdrop. Outsiders, Nyara's voice carried a harmonic that made Olivia's teeth ache. They were cast out from our empire generations ago for pursuing forbidden technologies. The High Matriarch's bioluminescence pulsed with barely contained anger. Now they return, at this precise moment. Olivia's analytical mind kicked into overdrive. "This isn't a coincidence," she said, studying the ship's unusual configuration. They waited for this exact moment, when the station would be full of diplomatic delegations, when Earth was joining the Concordat. "When I chose you," Nyara finished, her multifaceted eyes studying Olivia with renewed intensity. The station's emergency protocols engaged, crystalline barriers sliding into place over the viewports. Olivia could hear the chaos erupting in the corridors outside, dozens of species, each reacting to the crisis according to their own protocols and instincts. "The outsiders will demand an audience," Nyara explained, moving to a control panel that responded to her bioluminescent patterns. "They know we cannot refuse without violating Concordat law." "But that's what they're counting on," Olivia said, pieces clicking into place. "Your choosing me changed something in the political balance. They're using that disruption." A new alarm blared, different from the others. Nyara's expression shifted to something Olivia couldn't read. "They're sending a boarding party. By Concordat law, we must allow diplomatic representatives to dock. How many ships like that do they have?" Olivia asked, her mind racing through possibilities. "None. This vessel is unique, their flagship." Nyara's bioluminescence flickered with curiosity. "Why?" "Because they're not here to start a war," Olivia said, certainty growing as she analyzed the patterns. "They can't afford one. This is about something else, something specific to this moment, this situation." She gestured at herself. "Something about your choice." Before Nyara could respond, a delegation of station security arrived, a mix of species all wearing the crystalline badges of Concordat authority. "High Matriarch, the outsider delegation requests your presence in the Grand Assembly." "They?" The lead officer hesitated, "They specifically requested your chosen attend as well." Nyara's bioluminescence flared with patterns Olivia's training suggested indicated both anger and satisfaction. "Of course they did." She turned to Olivia. "Are you prepared to face what comes next?" "No," Olivia admitted honestly. "But I think that's why you chose me." "Because I'll face it anyway." The Grand Assembly Hall had transformed. Where hours before it had been filled with diplomatic pomp, now it thrummed with tension. The outsider delegation stood at the center, their bodies similar to the Valari but wrong somehow, their bioluminescence replaced with cybernetic implants that pulsed with artificial light. Their leader stepped forward, a female nearly as tall as Nyara but augmented with technology that seemed grafted directly into her crystalline flesh. "I am Syndic Ven of the Free Systems," she announced, her translator producing perfectly modulated tones. "And I challenge the validity of this selection." Murmurs erupted throughout the assembly. Olivia felt hundreds of alien eyes fixed on her, studying her every reaction. She forced herself to stand straighter. "The right of selection is absolute," Nyara responded, her voice carrying harmonics of authority that made the air itself seem to vibrate. "It has been our law since before your people abandoned our ways." "Your laws are as antiquated as your understanding of progress," Ven countered. "This human cannot possibly serve as a true chosen. She lacks the necessary genetic modifications, the neural interfaces, the basic biological requirements." "That is not your determination to make," Nyara cut her off, but Olivia caught something in the exchange, a subtle pattern she almost missed. "You knew this would happen," she whispered to Nyara, pieces of the puzzle shifting in her mind. "You chose me specifically because it would draw them out." The High Matriarch's bioluminescence flickered with what Olivia was learning to recognize as approval. "Continue," she whispered back. Olivia studied the outsider delegation more carefully, noting details her analytical training highlighted. Their technology was advanced, yes, but there were signs of strain in their cybernetic systems, subtle flaws in their integration. "They need something from you," she realized. "Something only the Empire has access to. That's why they're here now, using my selection as an excuse." She paused, another pattern emerging. "Something about your biotechnology. They're having problems with their cybernetic integration, aren't they?" Nyara's expression remained neutral, but her bioluminescence pulsed with confirmation. Ven's cybernetic eyes fixed on Olivia with newfound intensity. "Perhaps," the outsider leader said slowly, "we underestimated this human's potential utility." Her smile revealed teeth augmented with metallic implants. "We propose a compromise. Allow us to upgrade your chosen. Our cybernetic enhancements would make her a far more suitable companion for the High Matriarch." "No," Nyara's response carried harmonic undertones that made several nearby crystals crack. "She remains as she is." "Then you leave us no choice," Ven's cybernetic implants pulsed with ominous patterns. "We challenge your selection through the right of proving. Unless your unaugmented human can pass our tests, the selection is void, and our grievances must be addressed." The assembly erupted in chaos again, but Olivia barely noticed. Her mind was already racing ahead, analyzing possibilities, seeing patterns within patterns. She touched Nyara's arm, drawing the High Matriarch's attention. "Let me guess," Olivia said quietly, "you knew they'd demand this too." Nyara's multifaceted eyes sparkled. "I chose well," she said simply. "The question is, did I choose correctly?" The rite of proving took place in an ancient chamber deep within the station, its walls lined with living crystal that pulsed with its own inner light. Olivia stood at the center of a raised platform, surrounded by representatives from a dozen species. The outsider delegation watched from one side, their cybernetic implants casting harsh shadows, while Nyara and her court observed from the other, their natural bioluminescence flowing in complex patterns. "3 trials," Syndic Ven announced, her artificial voice echoing through the chamber. "Mind, body, and spirit, as tradition demands." Her cybernetic eyes fixed on Olivia. "Though perhaps we should simplify them for our unaugmented contestant." Olivia caught Nyara's subtle luminescent warning, "Don't rise to the bait." Instead, she smiled. "Please, don't hold back on my account." The first challenge materialized around her, a holographic interface far more complex than anything humanity had developed. Mathematical equations and spatial relationships blazed in three-dimensional glory, forming patterns that shifted and evolved with dizzying speed. Solve the paradox, Ven commanded. You have 5 minutes. Olivia's analytical mind kicked into high gear. The patterns were familiar somehow, similar to the subtle fluctuations she'd noticed in the outsider's cybernetic systems. She began manipulating the holographic symbols, not trying to solve each equation individually, but looking for the larger pattern they created together. 4 minutes in, she spotted it. It's not a mathematics problem, she announced. It's a diagnostic. These are the underlying flaws in your cybernetic integration system. She rearranged the symbols one final time, revealing a cascading failure point that pulsed angry red. This is why you're really here, isn't it? Your augmentations are failing. Ven's expression remained neutral, but her cybernetic implants flickered erratically. Impressive. But mental acuity alone does not make one worthy of being chosen. The holograms dissolved, replaced by a shimmering barrier of energy that cut Olivia off from the observers. Inside her enclosed space, gravity began to fluctuate wildly. Objects, some holographic, some very real, started flying around her in increasingly complex patterns. Navigate the chaos, Ven commanded. Without augmentation to assist you. Olivia had grown up on Earth's lunar colonies, where gravity was always a suggestion rather than a law. She let her body remember those early lessons, moving with the fluctuations rather than fighting them. The flying objects created patterns, dangerous ones, but patterns nonetheless. She began to dodge and weave, occasionally grabbing debris to use as momentum. 3 minutes of increasingly frantic motion later, she stood unscathed as the barrier dropped. She was breathing hard, but straight-backed and proud. Physical adaptation, she said, doesn't always require technological enhancement. Nyara's bioluminescence pulsed with what Olivia now recognized as pride, but Ven merely nodded. One final test remains. The greatest challenge any being can face. The chamber darkened, and new holograms sprang to life, but these were different. They showed scenes from Earth's history, humanity's greatest failures and darkest moments. Your species is violent, Ven's voice echoed. Primitive. Destructive. How can such a being be worthy of standing beside the High Matriarch? Face your species' true nature, and justify your existence to us. Olivia watched the images, feeling the weight of every alien eye upon her. Then she noticed something, subtle manipulations in the footage, careful edits that removed context. Her analyst's mind began picking apart the presentation even as her heart rose to defend her species. You show us at our worst, she said clearly, but deny us our best. Every failure you display led to growth, to change, to improvement. She gestured at the images. We learn from our mistakes. We adapt. We evolve. Not through cybernetic enhancement or genetic manipulation, but through understanding, determination, and hope. She turned to face Ven directly. And I can prove it. Your augmentations are failing because you tried to force evolution rather than earn it. But I can help you, not with technology, but with understanding. The patterns in your integration failures, they mirror patterns in human neural development. We solved similar issues centuries ago, without augmentation. The chamber fell silent. Ven's cybernetic implants pulsed erratically as she processed this information. Finally, Nyara stepped forward, her bioluminescence radiating authority. The trials are complete, the High Matriarch announced. My chosen has proven herself worthy not just of her position, but of something far more important. She turned to Ven. She has proven that the path forward lies not in abandoning our nature, but in understanding it. In cooperation rather than competition. Ven's artificial features struggled to maintain composure. You knew, she said finally. You chose her because you knew she would see the patterns we could not. I chose her, Nyara corrected, moving to stand beside Olivia, because sometimes the greatest wisdom comes from seeing things through fresh eyes. Her hand brushed Olivia's shoulder, sending tingles down her spine. And because true strength lies not in perfection, but in the courage to face imperfection and grow from it. The chamber's crystals pulsed with new light, marking the moment. But as the assembled delegates began to discuss what this meant for future relations, Olivia caught a glimpse of movement in the shadows. Not everyone, it seemed, was ready to accept this outcome. And as she met Nyara's multifaceted eyes, she knew the real challenges were just beginning. The celebration of Olivia's successful trials lasted precisely 6 minutes before the first assassination attempt. The drink in her hand, a shimmering liquid that changed color with the station's ambient lighting, suddenly crystallized, its contents becoming razor-sharp shards. Only Nyara's swift intervention, knocking the glass away with a pulse of biotic energy, saved Olivia's life. "It seems not everyone appreciates our new arrangement," Nyara observed, her bioluminescence pulsing with controlled anger as security forces swept through the gathering. "The outsiders?" Olivia asked, but her analytical mind was already seeing a different pattern. The way certain members of Nyara's own court had shifted positions just before the incident, the subtle changes in their luminescent patterns. "No," she corrected herself. "This came from within your court. The outsiders are too obvious a target now." She studied the shattered crystal on the floor. "This technology is purely Valari, isn't it?" Nyara's expression softened with pride. "You see why I chose you? Always finding the patterns others miss." The High Matriarch gestured, and the celebration chamber emptied, leaving them alone. "There are factions within my empire who believe any cooperation with lesser species weakens us. The outsiders' cybernetic rebellion gave these traditionalists ammunition, proof, they claimed, that deviation from our pure biological path leads to corruption." "But you don't believe that," Olivia said, noting how Nyara's bioluminescence shifted to more intimate patterns when they were alone. "I believe stagnation is the true corruption. Our empire spans 3 spiral arms, yet we haven't truly evolved in millennia. We perfect what we know rather than explore what we don't." Nyara moved closer, her crystalline form catching the light in ways that made Olivia's breath catch. "Until I saw you." "Me? But I'm just an analyst who sees patterns even my most enhanced advisors miss. A human who faced our trials without augmentation and succeeded by understanding rather than overwhelming them." Nyara's hand brushed Olivia's cheek, sending electric tingles through her skin. "A being who proves that true evolution comes from adaptation and understanding, not mere technological advancement." The moment was interrupted by a station-wide alert. Emergency barriers slammed down as artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. Olivia instinctively adjusted her stance, drawing on her lunar colony experience. "Multiple breaches detected," the station's AI announced. "Unknown technology detected in primary systems." "Not unknown," Olivia said, seeing the pattern emerge. "Hybrid technology, Valari biotech combined with outsider cybernetics. The traditionalists and the extremist outsider faction are working together." She turned to Nyara. "They'd rather destroy everything than allow change." Nyara's bioluminescence flared with battle patterns. "The station's defenses are compromised," Olivia finished. "But they don't know human systems." She pulled out her datapad, a simple device by Valari standards, but running protocols she'd modified herself. "The station still has its original Earth-designed maintenance backdoors. If I can access them." The chamber's lights flickered as unseen battles played out in the station's network. Olivia's fingers flew across her datapad, using skills honed through years of finding patterns in seemingly random data. Beside her, Nyara channeled biotic energy, creating a protective field around them as sections of the station began to decompress. "There," Olivia announced as new code flowed through the station's systems. "Emergency protocols engaged, but running through human algorithms they won't expect. We have maybe 5 minutes before they adapt." "Time enough," Nyara said, her bioluminescence shifting to patterns Olivia had never seen before. To prove that true strength comes from unity, not isolation. The High Matriarch's biotic field expanded, connecting with Olivia's human technology in ways that should have been impossible. Together, they created something new, a hybrid system that was neither purely biological nor purely technological. The station shuddered as competing forces battled for control. Through her connection to the network, Olivia could sense the traditionalists' confusion as their carefully laid plans encountered resistance they hadn't anticipated. Human ingenuity combined with Valari power created protocols that evolved faster than they could counter. But victory came with a price. As the last of the hybrid attacks were contained, Olivia noticed Nyara's bioluminescence flickering erratically. The High Matriarch had overextended herself, pushing her biological systems beyond safe limits to protect both Olivia and the station. The medical bay, Olivia started, but Nyara shook her head. No time. The traditionalists will have backup plans. We must strike now, while they're off balance. The High Matriarch straightened despite her obvious pain. But first, there is something you must know. Something about why you were really chosen. Before she could continue, the chamber's emergency barriers dissolved. Standing in the doorway was Syndic Ven, her cybernetic implants dark and inactive. Behind her stood several members of Nyara's court, their bioluminescence showing patterns of grim determination. Enough, Ven announced, but her voice was different, more natural, without its artificial harmonics. The time has come for all truths to be revealed. Ven's cybernetic implants lay dark against her crystalline skin as she stepped forward. Behind her, the members of Nyara's court showed luminescent patterns Olivia now recognized as anticipation rather than hostility. The deception ends now, Ven announced, her natural voice carrying harmonics that marked her as. Olivia's eyes widened as she caught the pattern. You're Nyara's sister, she breathed, pieces clicking into place. The Outsiders' rebellion wasn't a rebellion at all. It was an experiment. Nyara's bioluminescence pulsed with approval despite her weakened state. Tell me what you see, my chosen. Olivia's analytical mind raced through everything she'd observed. The Valari Empire was stagnating, trapped by its own traditions. The Outsiders' departure wasn't a true schism, it was a controlled experiment to explore different paths of evolution. She turned to Ven. Your cybernetic integration problems weren't real. You wanted to test how I'd approach solving them. Partial truths, Ven acknowledged, her crystalline features softening into a more natural configuration. The integration problems were real, but they were a symptom, not the cause. Our people had reached an evolutionary dead end, unable to progress purely through biological means, yet equally unable to successfully merge with technology. Until we observed humanity, Nyara added, her hand finding Olivia's. Your species fascinated us. You advance through understanding rather than pure evolution, adapt through insight rather than biological imperatives. We needed perspective. The right of proving, Olivia realized. You weren't testing my worthiness. You were demonstrating a different way of thinking to your own people. The chamber's crystals pulsed with new energy as more Valari entered, both traditional court members and supposed outsiders. The division between them seemed to be dissolving as natural bioluminescence and cybernetic implants found ways to complement rather than compete. But the traditionalists' attack was real, Olivia said, noting subtle patterns of tension among the assembled aliens. Some opposed this revelation. Change is never easy, Ven acknowledged. There are those who would rather destroy everything than see it evolve beyond their control. They've triggered a cascade failure in the station's core systems, one that will destroy everything here if not stopped. Nyara straightened despite her obvious exhaustion. Which is why we need you, Olivia. Not just as a symbol, but as the key to our future. Your human perspective, combined with our technology. She gestured, and the chamber's holographic systems activated, showing the station's critical systems racing toward catastrophic failure. Olivia studied the patterns of destruction, seeing not just the obvious attacks but the underlying structure. "It's not just an attack," she said. "It's a test. The station itself is trying to evolve, using the conflict as a catalyst. But it needs direction, guidance." She pulled out her datapad, connecting it to Nyara's biotic field. Information flowed between human technology and alien biology, creating new patterns, new possibilities. The traditionalists thought they were destroying the station, but they were actually forcing it to adapt. "All it needs is understanding," Nyara finished. "The one thing neither pure biology nor pure technology can provide alone." The station shuddered as Olivia's hybrid algorithm spread through its systems. Around them, the crystalline walls began to pulse with new patterns, not just Valari bioluminescence or outsider cybernetics, but something entirely new. The station itself was evolving, becoming a true fusion of organic and technological advancement. The traditionalists' weapons turned to dust as the hybrid systems adapted faster than they could attack. Their carefully planted viruses became part of the station's new immune system, transformed by understanding rather than destroyed by force. When it was over, the station had transformed. The rigid divisions between sections dissolved, replaced by adaptive environments that could accommodate any species comfortably. The very walls seemed alive with possibility. "This," Nyara announced to the assembled delegates, her bioluminescence strong and proud despite her fatigue, "is why I chose Olivia Mitchell of Earth. Not for her species or her abilities alone, but for what she represents, the power of understanding over force, of adaptation over rigid adherence to tradition." Ven stepped forward, her cybernetic implants now pulsing in harmony with her natural bioluminescence. "The experiment is complete. Our people have a new path forward, not through pure biology or pure technology, but through the wisdom to understand and unite both." "And humanity?" Olivia asked, feeling the weight of her species' future in the question. Nyara's hand tightened on hers. "Will stand beside us as equals. Your perspective, your adaptability, your understanding, these are worth more than any technology." The High Matriarch's bioluminescence shifted to intimate patterns. "And you, my chosen, will help guide us all into this new future. If you accept?" Olivia looked around the transformed chamber, at the faces of dozens of species watching this moment of change. She saw fear in some, hope in others, and endless possibility in all of it. Her analytical mind saw patterns of potential stretching out before them, difficult, challenging, wonderful potential. She squeezed Nyara's hand, feeling the delicious tingle of alien biology meeting human determination. "I accept," she said. "After all, someone needs to help you see the patterns." The station's crystals pulsed with joyous light as a new chapter in galactic history began, one written not in the language of power or technology, but in the universal grammar of understanding, adaptation, and love.